writing about your city and the state and the legislature.
You did all the good stories.
State.
Of course it is, but
I'm used to covering disasters.
listen, to the people, the mucking
Here about, I don't know, we've got about 10 minutes, 12 minutes before the meeting will start.
so that's only to be expected.
Still got people coming in, got plenty of media around.
Man,
I'll try to keep both views of the council and all the people giving their comments tonight, which there's quite a few people signing up.
because I don't believe it's going to change anything. And if I was in the media, I would be hoping to because that was another year of good stories. If they sign this, they're going to go away. Because
I mean, I've been covering this now for almost 2.5 years. So
are you getting Ferguson fatigue, Jason?
I'm here.
Yeah, I know, but you don't have a choice. It's your job.
But I don't know. I agree that my biggest problem with this entire situation is the DOJ is not going after others. I'm not just talking about the council. They should be going after because they do put a forward to life.
Well, there's lots of places you can have settings, but you have to start somewhere.
So as you see, I'm right up front, but we have a better view when we start in about 10 minutes or so. So everybody's signing up for public comments, and media's getting set up, all that normal stuff.
Interestingly, they have a new president.
Good evening. If you would like to speak tonight, you must sign in first. Thank you.
If there's a right way to do it,
We'll see. We'll have to see.
I was kind of bummed that I missed the and I decided we were going to go like Anatomy Public Standards, not CE.
Yeah, that was kind of quick. But when there is like precedent about that, the House of Representatives is very related to votes, and that's something plus.
But this isn't the House of Representatives majority. Our charter simply says that the 5 remaining people select the replacement.
I've read that.
Period. That's all it says. So 3 is greater than 2. It doesn't say super majority. It doesn't say it says no.
No argument.
So you can't just make shit up unless you're a banana republic.
Well, I guess this is going to be
City council members are starting to file in.
I'm sure village just makes sure.
Well, it's funny. I didn't see either. Back then, they had it. And there were a bunch of people. The guy, he died. And
Oh my God!
people wanted to get rid of the mayor.
No. She did the weird thing.
So I'm reading the charter. I wasn't
is crazy how it's a big media reunion. Everybody that is covering it forever is out tonight.
And we suffered the other way.
What's interesting is researching different classes and students. This is what it's interesting. There is no process in which law that allows us to do this. They told me he said it's hypothetically possible that they could start making the ballot, filling out a resolution.
And then
Yeah, is that like they abolish the maybe you could do it by petition.
so there's nothing in the charter that says that you participate, that you have here.
Nothing in state law that allows the charter. So and there's also nothing in state law that allows you to request. Which Jankos doesn't have in the charter now. So it's the third by city. Just a sign. Isn't that weird? That's very weird. Yeah. So when we followed that up, nobody has it's not like yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Work if they limit everybody to 12 seconds.
Right. Yeah, I think they get a minimum of 2 minutes here and usually 3 minutes at the City Hall. But you have everybody that goes 5 to 10 minutes if they don't get stopped. Usually at the mayor's discretion of how long they have to get going. So they say how people like you people again. You people.
It's okay, but I'm talking like Spanish Lake, Glasgow Village.
We got about 5 minutes before it starts. So after it starts, I can't say too much.
That's the problem. Again, I haven't seen you in forever. I don't think
So we still have people signing up to speak tonight. Some of these people you may know.
ahead and get started with our meeting. As you can see, one of the things that we did try to improve for this meeting was the sound. So we did bring in some additional speakers, microphones, so that we can make sure that everyone can hear us and hear you as we move on to the public comment portion of the meeting. So I do not have a gavel with me this evening, so I will ask you to bear with me. Doesn't mean I'm going to let you talk forever. So we're going to start the meeting, so I'm going to call this meeting to order. I'm going to ask if you'd all please stand and join me for a silent prayer. All please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Megan, here. 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 Well, thank you all for coming and joining us on this very cold February evening for the February 9th meeting of the Ferguson City Council. We will have first a public hearing on a special use permit and waiver for the numerical limitations to operate a car wash at 1000 South Forest Road. And I'll turn it over to our city manager, Mr. Counsel.
Thank you, Mayor Knowles. With us today is Reggie Jackson with RJ Total Appearance and Dan Fish, the Community Development Director for the City of Ferguson. Mr. Jackson is seeking a special use permit and a waiver of the numerical limitations to operate a car wash at 1000 South Forest. At the January 21st Planning Commission meeting, Mr. Jackson received a unanimous recommendation for approval. Mr. Jackson, Mr. Bishop.
I'd like to introduce Mr. Jackson and tell us a little bit about his business.
Hello everyone, my name is Reggie Jackson, he's my wife Tony. My business, we have been in business myself and my wife for a little over 10 years or so, and we have a couple of businesses. We just like to bring our services to the city of Ferguson. We've done a lot of business in the surrounding community and also some in Ferguson. We have mobile service that services vehicles on location. And so we're just looking for a building to be able to further our situation in terms of hand car wash.
Do you have an anticipated open date?
As of the 23rd.
Okay.
2 weeks from now.
So any other questions from the council? Seeing none, we'll start by opening up the public hearing for the special use permit and waiver. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the council relating only to the issuance of a special use permit or waiver regarding this business. So with that, do we have anybody who signed in to speak on the public hearing? I don't think we had anybody sign in to speak on the public hearing. All right. Seeing that, we will close the public hearing on the special use permit and waiver and move on to the public comment portion of the meeting. Again, we've asked everyone to please limit your comments. We did have a timer this time for our hearing, so we can try to accommodate as many speakers as possible. It will not be, this meeting will not be answering questions on the comment cards as we had in the past. This is just a public comment portion again, allowing us to hear from you what your thoughts are regarding any issues pertaining to city business. With that, I will ask the clerk or the city manager who has the list to call up the first resident.
Mildred Flines.
Good evening, everyone. I'm not going to even need 2 minutes tonight. I want to talk about what I've been talking about for the longest time in all the meetings. Ever since we've had this issue and the Department of Justice has become involved. Actually, I brought some other people with me so you won't just continue to see my face. And know that I am not it's not just us, it's a lot of our residents that know the situation we're in and know that the best thing for Ferguson is to sign that consent decree. So I urge our council to vote in favor of signing that decree so that we can move our city forward, so we can roll up our sleeves and get to work. Also, I'd like to talk to my councilman, Mr. Counsel. We had a conversation about Laverne Mitchell, and you said, I asked you if the conditions were set in a way that you could support her. If the conditions were right, you said yes, you could support her. So I'm asking you to remember our conversation and do what's right. Because like I said before, she is a woman that is concerned about Ferguson. She loves Ferguson. She wants to move it forward. And she won 3-2. No matter how you look at it, she won 3-2. If we need 4-1, I'm looking for your vote to be the 4-1. Thank you.
David Witt.
Mr. Witt? Steve? And we'll move on to the next.
David Royal.
Mr. Roy?
That's the list from last week. Angelique Kidd.
My name is Angelique Kidd, I'm a Ferguson resident. I'd like to start my time by quoting Felicia Pulliam, who last Saturday stood here and said, "Do the right thing this time." First, please fill the vacant Ward 2 seat with Laverne Mitchum. Second, vote yes to sign. I'd like to finish my time by talking about some of the words that I've heard during these public comment sessions. I stand today before you with many self-identifiers. I'm female, I'm white, a mother, wife, educator, U.S. Army veteran, and many others. The one that's most important to me right now is that I stand before you as an American, as a white American, born in Baton Rouge and raised in the military. As an American, I have heard other Americans address this city council using very white American words like money, bankruptcy, and business. Please listen. Please, anyone who will ever hear my white American words. When white Americans don't want to use the word conquer, we say exploration. And when white Americans, don't want to use the word genocide, we say manifest destiny. And when white Americans don't want to use the word war, we say conflict. And when white Americans don't want to use the word occupy, we say policing. And when Americans don't want to use the word racism, we say socioeconomics. And when Americans don't want to use the N-word, right, we say thug. And the most heinous of all is that when white Americans don't want to use the word reparations, we say it's just business.
realizing that what I have to say at this point makes little difference. But I would like you to know how I feel about Ferguson. Growing up, I lived in 4 different communities in several states. It wasn't until we moved to Ferguson 41 years ago this week that I really understood what having a hometown was like. We have been committed to Ferguson ever since. My fear is that with your vote tonight, if it is to sign the consent decree, that Ferguson will cease to exist. I would rather lose our city by fighting for it in court than lose it by giving in to the DOJ's crushing demands.
Good evening. I speak tonight to urge you to not sign the DOJ consent decree at this time. My reasons are many, mainly financial. I know the speaker before us said, you know, it's not business, it's something else, but it is business. If what we do here in Ferguson with this decree takes away everything that Ferguson provides for us as a city, then what good does it do for anybody? We can't afford what they're asking us to do. I don't see how we as a city can exist if we are to agree to the degree as it stands. Considering our financial budget or lack of it, I feel this would certainly bankrupt the city. Then what purpose would be accomplished for anyone? As a 5th generation citizen of Ferguson, I know there are residents who would work hard if we are treated fairly by the DOJ to forward this city and to accomplish the things that they want us to accomplish. Please consider all of our comments before making a decision that may destroy this town. How much financially worse off would we be if the case went to litigation? It is a case of we are damned if we do, and we are damned if we don't. Thank you.
Dennis Elwood.
Mr. Elwood? Mr. Elwood? Mr. Dennis? Oh, there you go. Yes, Dennis.
Well, you guys have you've had a rough job this past couple of years. I wouldn't trade places for it all. Most people just call me by Dennis. I moved to Ferguson because of its diversity, its own beautiful homes, and low crime. Most people do not want to know the truth on anything anymore. But if this agreement is signed, the old city will resemble Pine Lawn, Wellston, Jennings, and other predominant areas in North County. Let me add, we're giving everybody else their space. Okay, I lived in Pine Lawn for 10 years, so I've been the minority in most every place I've lived in St. Louis County. Yes, I've been pulled over for several things. Lights out, driving too slow, suspicious drivers, an officer said, and etc. But most of the time, I follow the rules, speak respectfully to other officers, and go to court and argue my case. I do not race around, weave in and out, don't talk on the phone while I'm driving. I'm a frugal person. Not rich, but I help out 5 families in my area. In my neighborhood, I bought 2 families without fathers Christmas presents last year. I'm getting tired of all the racial things in the past 2 years because I've tried to assist, especially the younger men, 18 to 21 years old, to continue schooling. It's been a rough battle. Out of the 10 people that I've been directing in my area, only 2 have decided to get some technical education or go on to Forest and Valley School. It's not a very good record. And it seems like a lot of young guys, white and black, don't have the energy or whatever to get ahead in life. As a Post-Dispatch has reported, there are 5 communities with worse relationships and tickets than Ferguson has done. Having said that, there seems to be 2 sets of rules to live by. There's the rules of standard traditions, and mostly over 50 years old, and then others. In the past year, I know of at least 10 families that have left Ferguson because of this turmoil. The stress has been especially rough on older people and the younger people. You laugh about it, it's not funny. Some have just walked away from their home, and some are appraised value. I will not pay any more additional property taxes because I feel I'm paying artificial value right now. The main reason the Department of Justice is suing Ferguson is because it is a white-managed city, is my opinion. That has been surviving, it's been surviving in rough times, but it's changing rapidly now. I do not think Ferguson will survive another 5 to 10 years. In the past, Ferguson has used code violations to fund new community center, now Ferguson Fire Department, and other additional upgrades to the Ferguson Police Department. Okay. I worked at the Capitol in Washington, D.C. for numerous years. The corporate United States has authority in Washington, D.C. and the 5 territories it controls.
Madam President.
One thing I want to say, if this new thing is signed right now, all you officials, agents and officers of Ferguson, better read carefully Title 42 of the U.S. Code. If you read it, if you have knowledge of any law that you're violating, it can be used against you. The minimum fine is $10,000 for accepting this settlement. An example, a few years ago, an EPA agent came to a state.
I appreciate it, but we need to make time for everyone else.
Okay, I don't think Ferguson will survive after signing this settlement, my opinion.
Thank you, Dennis.
Mark Timmerman.
Mr. Timmerman?
I'm a second-year student at St. Louis University School of Law, and last year I had the great privilege of being an intern with the Ferguson Commission. As you've heard, the main concern surrounding the consent decree is not about the content, but about whether Ferguson will have enough money to see it through. I do not share that concern, however, and the reason I think it will succeed is because this city is filled with resilient residents who, despite the heavy burden and stress of poverty and financial instability, continue to survive because they are able to find a way. Tonight in Ferguson, you can find a single mother who is worried she won't be able to pay her rent and adequately feed her children this month. But just like she did last month, she will find a way. You can find a poor young black man wondering how he is going to make it financially after having to pay the city hundreds of dollars in fines and fees for a minor traffic violation. But he will work hard, being creative with his minimum wage salary, and he will find a way. Ferguson is filled with people who find a way. I encourage you, the City Council of Ferguson, to also find a way. Tonight, you decide not about Ferguson's past, but about its future and what character it will take. Your action tonight will be the first part of the next chapter of the story. Yes, clearly, financial concerns about the consent decree remain, and these concerns will not go away quickly. But you can be the leaders that say yes to positive and productive change for this community, even in the face of known obstacles. You can be the leaders of Ferguson who, like her determined residents, say, "Together, we will find a way." For the sake of this city, this region, and for our nation, vote yes for the consent decree.
Bill Ferguson.
Once again, I'm up here asking for the council to stay a second reading and a vote until you can get this on the ballot. Saturday was brought up what the cost would be to implement the consent and also the file. It's a wash. Put this on the ballot, show what the tax increase will be to implement it, one way or the other, either to accept or fire. You do not have the funds to do either one right now. You're going to have to ask for a tax increase, do it ahead of time. You'll know how much money you have to work with. If you accept, if the people vote to accept, fine. We accept, we agree to the tax increase, we got the money, you got time to get your ducks in a row. I reread this consent decree. There is no drop dead date. Why are we in such a rush to sign a contract with the Department of Justice, literally, when we don't even have Amendment A and what its stipulations are? So once again, I'm asking, please, put this on the ballot as soon as available, let the citizens vote on it, and if they accept, accept. If they say fight, we fight. We won't win, but at least we'll put up a fight. Thank you.
The next name I have is Winfred Cox.
Okay, so Ferguson, Pylon, Wellston, all these other communities, you've been fleecing by police. You have just basically robbed people blind driving through your communities. You should have money just running over. You should have a total. So, why these gentlemen and everybody else is worrying about Ferguson is going to just go under? Use some of that money that you already got from everybody that came through here. You know, it's time to stop. Just go ahead and sign a decree. You still haven't settled the Mike Brown acceptance. You got more money to spend. You're paying more lawyers. It's time to stop all this Ferguson's going under stuff and get it done. Just sign it.
I have Isaiah and the kids of Ferguson.
Why do we treat black people like we do? They're not different than white Americans. I want you to sign the consent decree so black people will be treated fairly and all kids of Ferguson will have a fair chance at life.
I have two things to say. Us kids have rules at school, and you do. You have some too. Why don't you follow them because? And when you say the pledge, we mean justice for all.
prosecuted unsuccessfully for an inconsequential municipal ordinance violation for praying on the side of the road. An ordinance violation, Ferguson was cited by the DOJ for abusing over and over that will no longer be allowed once the consent decree is in place. 2 long days of jury trial for a not guilty verdict on a case that had no merit to begin with. Starting tomorrow, another day, maybe 2, will be spent prosecuting a similar charge that also lacks any merit whatsoever. And next month, and the month after that, similar cases, simply failure to comply, including one for just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, will be tried, filling Stephanie Carr's law firm's buckets with cash. If you think I'm exaggerating, I'd be happy to tell all y'all about it after this meeting. Did you know this was going on? Did you know that we're paying for this? There was no justice to be had there. There wasn't even any vindication to be had there. The only thing there was to be had was money for Miss Carr's law firm. It was appalling as a resident, tax-paying citizen of Ferguson, to sit there and watch my money being flushed down the toilet minute by minute, while simultaneously wasting the time, effort, and working hours of every person, including the defendant, in that courtroom. If Ferguson residents have any concerns about how much money Ferguson has and how your money is being spent, I challenge you to go watch your tax dollars being flushed away in county court this week. And you want me to vote for a tax increase so you can hand it over to her law firm in that manner? No. I sat there thinking to myself, Ferguson can't afford to comply with the Constitution? But we can afford to pay lawyers to argue about how we should be allowed to violate people's constitutional rights? Don't cry poverty to me. I'm done hearing that mess. Ask Flint, Michigan, how sacrificing justice and humanity for cold hard cash flow. I don't want my money being handed over to a predatory, unscrupulous law firm bent on perverting the justice system to make a buck. I want my money spent on justice, and that's what we're here for tonight, justice.
John Powell, 21 Georgia Avenue, Ferguson. My wife Lisa and I have been proud residents of this community for 8.5 years. And I just want to thank all the people that I've met in this last 1.5 years in the protest community and various groups that are working here in Ferguson. There are a lot of good people that are behind you, that want to believe in you, council members and Mayor Knowles, that want you to do the right thing. I'm a member of One Ferguson. We have endorsed the signing of the consent decree. We believe it's the right thing for Ferguson to do as we move forward. We will not abandon you, council members, if you do this right thing. We will try to brainstorm. We will try to be there for you. We will try to work on the hard part of putting this into place. But please, please do the right thing and go forward and sign the consent decree. I want to say again, Laverne Mitchum to be on the council because 3 is greater than 2. 3 is greater than 2. And finally, I want to say to all of you that tonight, if you sign the consent decree, if you put Laverne Mitchum on the council as you should, you will show the world that Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Thank you.
Good evening. I am not a resident of Ferguson. I'm a resident of Ladue. It has been my privilege over the last 1.5 years to get to know many, many, many citizens of Ferguson. And they are, without a doubt, the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. The most courageous, most determined, the most forgiving. Ferguson is not the only community in this area with a problem. With a problem of racism, with a problem of predatory policing, with a problem of municipal courts. Ladue is just as bad, if not worse. We've got people working there now. There are people working in Chesterfield now. There are people working all over this area. But we look to you. We need you to show us the way. We need you to be the leaders, not only in Ferguson, but for all of St. Louis, and in fact for all of the nation. This time matters. This moment matters. This place matters. Not by your choice, not by anybody else's choice, but it's the reality. Please, I beg of you, show us the way. Sign the consent decree. Seat Liver and Mitchum. Move on.
Hello, and good evening. I do want to talk about two things that, looking over the consent decree, I look at the fact that Ferguson has been around since 1894. And here we are 100 years later, still discussing on what is right and what is wrong for the citizens here. Yes, we have elected you to represent the city, the best interest of the city, and we hold you accountable for that. I've come to the meetings, and I've come to the budget meetings, and I came to the court decree meetings, and each time it's all about money. We talked about we're in a deficit of $2.5 million, and Jeff got up and said that he somehow misplaced 150 or 150 was somewhere. Then we look up and he then said that this is something that happened started in 2015. And yet he showed a report of 2009 to 2015, and we're constantly going back and forth, and it all comes down to money. And then the attorney that we paid said that if we don't sign the decree, that if we go along with it, that we can look at giving you guys pay raises, giving the city employees pay raises for something that went wrong in order to enact with the DOJ. Again, it all came down to money. Getting past all of that, it seems like when we as citizens sit and think about, our backs are up against the wall, because regardless of where we go, it's going to be money. Either it's going to be $3 million here or $8 million there. We have to pay. We cannot, this is not going away. The DOJ, Department of Justice, are in charge of our law enforcement, our military, they're in control. So they've given us a report card, and it's a failing report card. It will not go away, and we have to address that. We can only do better. We know better, do better. And what we failed to even put emphasis on, the DOJ also said that they would assist us in funding whatever that is. I don't know a place where I get a reprimand from my boss and my boss gives me a corrective action and help me with that corrective action. So you need to think about where we're at right now, and we need to move forward at this point. Please sign the decree.
Ferguson resident. Was liberty and justice for all. What do these words mean? Are they just hollow words or an empty promise? A phrase to be uttered without seeking to provide liberty and justice for all our citizens. People recite these words, but they do so without putting into practice all that they mean and ask of us as a city, as a nation, and as a state. It has been more than 150 years since President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation and generally surrendered the troops of the Confederacy, and yet we are still debating liberty and justice for all of our citizens. It is the 21st century. We cannot and we should not be debating the cost simply complying with the laws of the land and the Constitution of the United States. We cannot put a price tag on the promise of liberty and justice for all. Signing the consent decree means bringing us one step closer to the living those words as a community and as a nation. Signing the consent decree means bringing us closer to healing the divisions in our community. For far too long, liberty and justice have been denied. It is time to right the scales of justice and level the playing field for all. Please sign the consent decree and move our community forward toward liberty and justice for all.
Excuse me, I know I'm out of line, I'm sorry. We got Dave in the building. I heard that you called that name, and if it would please the people, I would like to bring Dave with to the podium, and if the people would excuse, you know what I'm saying, me, I would like to do that if y'all really, if not, I apologize.
Mr. Chastain is next. Thank you.
First, I have to say that I know David, and I'm quite uncomfortable coming up here and taking a spot that I think. I know that his name was called earlier and he wasn't here at the moment, but I hope that you will find a spot for him to have to say here. With that said, I want to go follow up on questions that I asked last week because, you know, the issue has come down to can Ferguson afford this, can Ferguson not afford this? And I raised the question last week, how were these estimates come up with? And in your answers, you said that many of the high estimates were based on inflated numbers for figures such as paying the fire department and paying public employees raises that were not required by the consent decree. So I think that the high estimate numbers were questionable in many cases. But even more fundamentally, you said that the things that you've already committed to are also included in your estimates of the cost for implementing the consent decree. Well, if you've already committed to those things, those are expenses you've already committed to. So your vote tonight is really about the extra money. And when you look at that extra money and compare it against the cost of litigation and the implementation that you have on the other side, I think it's fairly clear that the chances are high that the litigation is going to end up costing Ferguson more. But regardless of that, I think it comes down to some basics. A house divided against itself cannot stand. And you have a rift here in Ferguson that has to be healed, and this community is never going to thrive. It's never going to get tax increases passed, as an example, if you continue to exacerbate this rift and this division in your community. And finally, I just want to say that I was very skeptical about the comment period because I wasn't sure that disempowered people would be able to come out and speak for themselves. But night after night, we've heard a vast majority of the speakers come out in favor of the consent decree. And if you're serious about grassroots democracy and listening to the people and having this comment period mean something, then you'll need to vote yes on the decree.
Allotted their time.
You are not allowed to vote this council. You can't make a motion. Right. This isn't a plebiscite. You can have a seat. We're going to continue down this list before we get into public comments. So, thank you. Mr. Chabot.
Good evening, Council. Tonight we're going to vote on the decree that's going to forever change our city and its citizens. And I know this is not something that you take very lightly, and I know it's been weighing on you very heavily. You're tasked to make the best decision possible for the city of Ferguson. Myself, like you, and many of the citizens, and many of the people who are not citizens of our city, have talked contemplated, and even prayed about this decree and the future of Ferguson. I welcome positive reform. I have yet to find anyone that does not feel that Ferguson can do and will do better. I welcome the equal application of justice, and I also welcome scrutiny. I believe without the scrutiny, mistakes, knowingly or unknowingly, are made, but most importantly, new ideas do come to life. This decree before us is not a document that will reform our city that others can model. Instead, it is a document to push our city to extinction. The benchmarks and the financial obligations within the document are unreachable for our city. The decree requires complete transparency from our city, which I have absolutely no problem with. Yet the federal government is not required to meet these same standards. Instead of reform, it requests a pay raise. I'm asking you to vote no on the decree. It's not a no vote for positive reform, but a no vote to give our citizens, our city, an opportunity to make a better community for everyone. Thank you.
Ms. Jasper?
Stephanie! Is she a lawyer here? Does she look when you're talking? Stephanie, it breaks my heart. We're paying you, and people are talking. I'm talking to Come on, go away. Go away. All right, I'm Sherry Jasper. You know, sometimes there's thrill in here, right? Sometimes we're not. That's okay, because right's right and wrong's wrong. First of all, I say vote to accept the consent decree because Ferguson needs to change. And I'm an older white person. I've not had problems with the police, but I'm an older white person. That's our lie. I have problems with the police. Come on. That's a lie. Look around. Everybody here cares about their own lives. Everybody here has to work together. Those kids were so on target. And if we can be honest, we all want to be treated fairly. Well, just because somebody looks a little different than you doesn't mean they don't want to be treated fairly, and it's wrong. And the good old boys club, I'm sorry, when I saw that, 3 is more than 2. And I saw that, Mayor, I was disgusted. And Stephanie, I'm talking to you again, Stephanie, we're paying you, you don't look. Stephanie, you came up with that? And where from? Because it's not right. And now you're hunting for somebody else because you want somebody else to do the good old boy club, even though they don't look like you. Well, that's wrong. We got to change, because if it doesn't change, if nothing changes, nothing changes, that's insanity. If we can't do right, it's sad. And Laverne should be put in that position. You know, wrong's wrong, no matter how hard you try to hide it. No matter how you shove it under the rug. No matter how you lie and do that. Police say, overall, no, we're good. Well, that's what I love about the Department of Justice when they said, if an officer sees another officer do something wrong, and they don't do anything about it, they're just as guilty. And it's the same as teachers. They've got to grow up. And got to change. And you said tighten our belts. We got to tighten our belts. I'm saying, everybody's tightening their belts. Where's he at? Jeff, where's Jeff? Finance Jeff. Hey, no more raises until things change. Why should we? I'm a little poor, middle-class lady with not a lot of money, with a little tiny house. I can't be carrying this. Black people and poor white people shouldn't be carrying all the weight of the taxes. You guys fight about other companies when they don't have money, they don't get raises. Come on. And I really believe that if we did the right thing, I really believe that nothing's too hard for God. And if we do the right thing and we turn it around, we can get better. But if we don't stop hiding behind our little crap and say, well, not me, it's not my fault, then it's never going to get better. We need to respect each other. Right is right and wrong is wrong. If you have a religious collar, or you have a badge on, or you have a Black Lives Matter thing, and you do wrong, you're wrong. But I love Ferguson and Black Lives Matter, and one person will never be one person until we shine the light on the lies in our own lives.
There's a lot of strong opinions about whether Ferguson should sign the consent decree, and I don't have one. The leaders of this community, elected to the city council, have abused the authority which our state grants to municipal government, and have thereby brought upon us the scrutiny of the federal government and the world. I don't care if we sign or fight, because no amount of monitoring and regulation can turn bad people into good ones. Whether we sign or fight, so long as this city is led by those who increased traffic revenue from $1.5 million when Mayor Knowles took office in 2011 to a budgeted amount of more than $3 million in 2015, the abuse will continue. There can be no mistake about it. Had Mike Brown not been killed, these practices would continue to this day. People would still be losing jobs. Families would still be losing their homes because we would still be locking up poor people and demanding that they dial for dollars. It would be the ultimate injustice if those who are abused by the money-grubbing leaders of this community were compelled to bear the cost of remedying that abuse. That's why my top priority today is to ensure that there is not one additional dime taken out of the pockets of our city's poor to continue to support those who have milked them all these many years. Not one more dime to this council to enable them to throw hundreds of thousands of dollars at politically connected developers to build projects which our city doesn't need and which don't benefit the people which our city has abused. Not one more dime for this city to continue to harass and abuse its most vulnerable citizens. So I don't care whether you fight or sign. What I care about is not one more dime.
Harvey Johnson? I'm sorry, Charlie Johnson.
I already know that 2 is more than 3. I learned that here but now, I know that 1.5 to 4 million equals 10 million. You are fabulous. And somebody said the Department of Justice is crushing demands will cause Ferguson to cease to exist. I mean, we should have seen this coming. You know, people should have been coming to the city council meetings and to the traffic courts when it looked like an NAACP convention. This isn't right, but nobody said that then. You know, and now we're saying, oh, this isn't right. I really do believe that the Department of Justice is not playing with you all. You know, and then, like the lady said, for you all to, last week it was some rhetoric about getting the Department of Justice to pay the fine. That's like, yeah, all those traffic tickets that were given out by the little black car up and down Florissant Road, that's like asking him to pay those tickets. But, oh, I do have concerns. The Oath Keepers keep showing up at Ferguson. Now, these are people sworn to protect America from its enemies, foreign, domestic and abroad. I am not a domestic enemy, and I'm damn sure not a foreign enemy. But, you know, they came in August 11, 2015, on the anniversary week of Mike Brown's death. And you seem very, very helpless to get those people off those roofs with their guns trained on peaceful people. Right. I think you should be recalled. I really do.
Ms. Jones? Barbara Jones?
petition.
Thank you very much.
Lula Powell.
Who was the first name?
Lula.
Lula Powell.
Good evening, Counsel. I'm here, I'm Lula Howard, and I live at 245 Gage Drive. And I'm a long-time resident, I've been a resident of Ferguson 36 years. And it's plain to see that some changes need to be made here in Ferguson. And I think that we can help to make things better by voting and voting for the right thing. And I think that we need to vote for the consent decree and do anything else that will help Ferguson, the residents of Ferguson, North County, the United States as a whole, because we see injustice all over this country, all over the United States. So we need to try to do what is best for we the people of the United States. And I mean all people, black, white, whatever. And I would like to see consent decree signed.
Say Jim Knowles. No.
I just wanted to bring up that when the last town council had a person absent from actually resigning from the council, I was on that council. We had the same situation. We had 3 people that voted one way and the others voted the other way. Then I was on, after I got off the council, that seat stayed vacant for a year and a half. Then when we revised the charter, I believe in 2008, I was on the charter commission, and we made the decision at that time that we wanted to have 4 people vote for the council member. So they had to come to a consensus. So they were trying not just to throw somebody in there that a few people like. There's always one side of the council and the other side of the council. It doesn't matter if you're black or white. You could be Democratic, you could be Republican, you could be anything. And this isn't about race. Race wasn't even an issue.
Let's all be respectful to all the speakers. Thank you.
The issue was force the other council members to work together, to come up with somebody that is good for the entire city. Not just somebody you want because they agree with you, but somebody that will work for the entire city, has been involved in the city, that hopefully all council knows to some extent for being involved. And that's why I kept it short and put the mayor as the deciding vote if you couldn't come to a consensus, to force you to come to the consensus. So that is our reasoning behind that when we're on the charter commission. And I know all of you folks, I know you're trying to do the right thing for the city. I've worked for some of you, with the exception of one, that's because I didn't know the one person. Do the right thing. Signing a piece of paper is not going to change people's hearts. You need to work on changing people's hearts. Change the ordinances that need to be changed. Do whatever you have to the police officer that's doing the wrong thing, going after African Americans, or going after anybody. I don't care who it is. Anybody that's getting beaten down improperly, that officer or that individual should be fired. But signing a piece of paper is not going to make that happen. Thank you.
I'm going to save and I'll be right back.